So, Garrett, a little while back on the podcast, we watched a film called Mandy. And I think we both are, it's pretty safe to say, one of our favorite films of the decade. Would you say that?
I mean, you just said it, so I don't have to.
Okay, fine. Then you agree with me? Before that, the director, Panos Cosmatos, made one other movie. And today you forced me to watch that movie. Well, not today. I watched it yesterday. And now I'm going to criticize all your movie choices.
Does the song Mandy not have lyrics that have Mandy in it?
What, are you fucking like Googling Barry Manilow lyrics in the middle of the fucking podcast? You asked me because I was not standard, and I actually started to do something not standard, and it involves your participation, and here you are.
Well,
it does have it. It goes, Mandy.
I know, but when I literally did search Google, it brought up like different lyrics for like a different song.
We going hopping? That's a different song.
I know.
Well, fix it.
So when you said that we saw Mandy, I wanted to go. Well, also we came and we gave without taking. Like, you know, I wanted to do one of those, but that was like I was looking through the lyrics. I'm like, none of these are fucking Mandy lyrics.
So in the middle of watching Tool to Die Young, which includes that song,
yes,
I took a brief detour to watch Panos' other film, which is Beyond the Black Rainbow, a really weird movie.
Great.
I don't know what to call it.
It's a cult 80s movie.
It is in fact a film. It feels like a very old midnight movie.
Like Midnight at the Oasis?
Like a fever dream kind of experimental almost at times. Nightmare. Why'd you pick this one, Garrett?
One, I fucking like it.
What? That's because you're a psychopath.
There are things about the style and the way it's shot that kind of reminded me a little bit of Ex Machina.
Okay.
And it kind of ends with a similar tone.
Yeah. Same general idea, honestly.
Yeah, and so it's like when we were watching it, I thought, well, that would be a good companion piece, much like A Mighty Wind and Llewyn Davis. Kind of were good.
Almost forgot the name of that movie.
I wanted to say Elwyn because that's what John Goodman said.
Smellwyn.
Smell you later.
Smell my wind.
So, and it's one of those things. It's like Beyond the Black Rainbow, when it came out, like hardly anybody really talked about it. It still doesn't have that many ratings, comparatively speaking.
Sure.
I do think it's probably like a love or hate because of the pacing and the type of movie it is.
Mm-hmm.
And it has like, it's a super low budget film, but
yeah,
it's like it uses its budget well.
Mm-hmm.
I think for what it is. Yeah, because on IMDb, it says the budget was estimated 1.1 million Canadian.
Damn. Okay, that's really cheap.
But then it says worldwide gross was $56,000.
66.
56. So apparently
56, it was even worse.
It was like a very limited release. Apparently.
So an absolute bomb.
Yeah, probably.
Well, I mean, it probably wasn't that too big of a hit, though.
I mean, yeah, it is literally a cult film.
Yeah. And considering that he went on to make Mandy, which in the modern internet age got pretty big, relatively speaking, to what it is, I would say. Would you agree? That movie had a lot of like talk on the internet and seemed pretty popular for a couple of months before kind of disappearing again. But
yeah, I think having Nicolas Cage in it, which is a recognizable person, rather than having basically like no names.
Sure. And
helps.
We'll get to that in a little bit. Well, this is your fucking movie.
Keep going. I made it. Isn't it fantastic?
Yeah. Well,
it's
actually the entire time watching it, that's what I thought the whole time. This is a movie you would have made. I thought that the entire time. This feels like a you movie through and through.
I mean, much like Mandy, Panos has his influences on his sleeve.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's so many spots of it that's like, oh yeah, this is like John Carpenter.
Yeah.
You know, especially like early Carpenter, like Dark Star, John Carpenter, when John Carpenter was making parody movies off of 2001: A Space Odyssey and Doctor Strangelove.
Everything you said just went right over my head.
You know, it's like this takes place the exact same year that Mandy does. They both take place in 1983. The fact that there are very similar shots, like you mentioned to me, it seems like Mandy is more of like a continuation of this idea. Like he's still working things out in the way
A
that he wants to tell
perfection
us.
almost, or refined, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah,
I
no,
still
I
think
agree.
Mandy's a much stronger film, but budget helps and all that, and time helps, and technology, and a bunch of other stuff too. I don't think Mandy could have been made without this movie already being made. So
I mean, this was like an exploration of themes, but it is more of a sci-fi slant, whereas Mandy's more of a horror slant.
sure, yeah. And I think I'm as much as I love it, I think I'm more of a horror guy than a sci-fi guy. So maybe
That's fair.
my thing too. I mean, that being said, I'm a huge sci-fi guy too, so those are probably my two genres. And adventure. I'm gonna make something that's all three of them.
Well, it's sort of like, I think, while like the protagonist doesn't really necessarily say much in this. I don't think she says anything really.
I wouldn't even call her the protagonist, to be honest.
And then it's kind of like the antagonist, if you would even call him a villain. Like,
I would say he's the protagonist because we follow him
yeah.
for the majority of the movie, even though he's not like the point of it. I don't know.
So I kind of feel like Mandy
Maybe not.
has stronger characters.
Yes, they
Like
feel a lot
Red,
more fleshed out.
Yeah, Nicolas Cage's Red is more of a strong character. Risenborough
Mandy,
as
yeah.
Mandy is a stronger character, and then Linus Roach playing the cult leader is a much stronger
And the same kind of
character.
thing too, because they really don't have a lot of dialogue in that either.
Right.
There's not a lot of dialogue. A lot of it speaks through the visuals and the music in Mandy.
That's the other thing too. While I like the soundtrack of this one, the Mandy soundtrack is like one of like my favorite modern soundtrack for movies. Like that and Tron Legacy are the two.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's like it's a much more powerful soundtrack as well. So
I don't want to say this one feels, well, it's because I'm not very experienced in it, but it feels fairly generic considering what it is.
That's the
maybe
thing is
it's
like
just nowadays, and maybe it's like influence.
that's the thing.
But
Like synthwave now is way more refined, whereas 10 years ago, it wasn't as popular as it is now.
Sure.
And that's the thing too, is like seeing Mandy first and then going back and watching this is way different than seeing it the other way around.
Yeah, which was my experience. I watched Mandy first.
Exactly. So you can't go back once you've seen something.
But that's the thing is now I can see little thread lines, like I was talking about off air, when there's a part of the movie where I don't even remember his name. Barry is driving, and he turns to the passenger seat, and it cuts to like it's him, but it's like an image of a person that's gone, and then it cuts back, and he's smiling, and the screen is red, and it's literally the shot for Mandy. And I went, oh, that's kind of cool, but different intentions, or is it a man completely gone?
See, that's interesting that you say that.
The person that died that caused him to go there.
Right. I see it as becoming his true self, and his old self accepting it.
Sure.
Like saying it's okay where you are now because that's really who you are.
I would definitely agree with that in Mandy. In this one, I think it feels more of like a can't go back thing. Because he's on a mission to kill her kind of thing.
Well, it's interesting to me because to maybe get into it a little bit here. Barry is one of the.
At the end of Mandy.
Say that again?
No, you go and I'll come back to it. I'll write it down.
Okay. So Barry seems like he's one of the few on that side that's not completely drugged out of his mind or is like cognizant of what's going on. Like everyone else seems to take the drugs to escape. And he seems to want to throw all of the pretenses away and like be his true self.
Okay.
He doesn't have his attachments anymore. He's decided to do things for himself. He's not hiding who he is anymore.
Sure. He's not listening to like the doctor or his mother or whatever. He's actually being what he is. He's just not wearing his hair and all that kind of stuff or his contacts.
And it's like from the audience's point of view, it's a transformation, but from his character's point of view, it's a more honing down to who he is, because it's like he had the suit already, he had his knife already, which is very reminiscent of the axe in Mandy.
Sure.
And it's like the girl is going through the same process of she doesn't have this blocking her abilities anymore. She's more true to herself. and is coming to terms with that as well.
So is she like a Firefly kind of thing?
It would seem that way. I would
Stranger
almost
Things?
like with Dune, where it was like the breeding process was getting them
Okay.
to the
Yeah.
perfect being.
I get this reference now because I'm reading
That's the
it.
reason why I use it. She is
Yeah,
the
but
Queen
but the thing
Cataract.
is, I don't want to like just say it because I'm gonna be wrong, and I'm gonna be like, guess I gotta reread those pages. Hmm.
So it's sort of like being true to who you are seems to be a big thing in his filmography. The fact that he still, like Panos himself, was dealing with the loss of his parents.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like allowing yourself to feel the way that you feel and reacting the way that really is healthy for you to react, because bottling it up or drugging yourself up for it doesn't actually make any of those things go away.
Sure.
So it's like Mandy almost seems to be the natural release of that anger. And Beyond the Black Rainbow seems to be the coming to terms with allowing yourself to have those feelings.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that. Mandy's very cathartic, while this is like starting to be the angry.
Right.
So if this is like angry at the situation, Mandy is coming to terms with it.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And then I think it was interesting too. I was reading some background stuff, and Panos's father was in the industry and was a director.
It made
Uh,
Tombstone.
yeah, even though the talk around Hollywood is that Kurt Russell did a lot of the directing of that. But anyway,
Hmm.
the fact that when he was younger, Panos could not watch any rated R films, and so he would see like the covers for horror films and sci-fi films, and have to imagine what happened in the movie since he couldn't watch it when he was a kid. So it's like he said a lot of the ideas come from like those types of things where he would just imagine what the films would be and kind of like what the trailers would end up turning out to have. And so that's
And he
why a
just
lot,
imagine some real fucked up shit.
just like David Lynch. So it's like that's why to me this almost feels like a music video in pieces,
So did
because
Mandy.
yeah, because a lot of it is driven by the score. The
Mm-hmm.
music helps with the pacing and to show how the things could go, and I really like that kind of melding with the music and the editing of the film.
I've always like Edgar Wright. I think he does it in a different tone, but does the same way.
Mm-hmm.
Tarantino is the same kind of thing too. I would say if I were to be a filmmaker, I would almost start with music first and then build from there. I don't know if that's because I come from a little bit more of a music background, but
I think that helps.
that's where I would pretty much like. I have ideas for things right now, and I have Spotify playlists that like I add songs to and change them around to try to like unlock ideas a little bit more. If you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, some
I love it
filmmakers
when
even shoot with that like playing in the background so that they get a
yeah
feel for the pacing of the film.
yeah. So I like movies that are driven by the music. So these two were Mandy more so. I think you can get Mandy's entire story just by listening to the soundtrack a little bit more. I think we talked about that on the cast.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't listened to this music standalone, but I like it when a film tells its story through the music, and music isn't just kind of slapped on top for whatever reason.
Yeah, to me, both of these films are where you could crank the Blu-ray, because I try to listen to all the stuff with headphones on. I have a real nice monitoring headphone setup, and
Well, brag again. Here we go.
no, I'm just like it's different. Like if you just anyone could go down and get a pair of $5 headphones. I mean, not that these are the most expensive ones ever, but they're like the standard for
Yeah, they're like just like
production
$800.
quality. So it's like I try to have the volume at a very good level and then listen to it on the best setup that I can. So, and then you can tell a difference with better sound quality or lesser sound quality. And
I totally understand what you're talking about.
yeah, this
I
one
just
had a
have
good
gaming
one.
headphones, so like they're moderately good, but I always listen to everything loud.
That's how you got to do it, man.
Hell yeah.
How did you like the way the movie started?
How did it start?
It has the like VHS quality video from the
Right.
Institute.
Yeah. I like that. It was good. It was very reminiscent. I know it came out after, but of like Get Out, which I like. That was one of my favorite parts of Get Out, is when they had like a little informational video or whatever. So it was cool to see this one. because I like that in movies. That's it. You're not gonna say anything?
No, I was listening to.
I was hack fraud director that you hate.
I was making sure that you were saying through your thoughts so that I didn't jump ahead of you.
No, I like it. I think it's an interesting way to kind of set up the technology or the institutes in the world and all that kind of stuff. And also to date it to the time period as well.
Right. And it's like, depending on your own personal preferences or beliefs, like realizing this guy's probably full of shit, or this is just a way to get people's money, or, you know, how, whatever it is you think about cults or brainwashing or, you know, druggy hippie movements of communes and things. I think Panos has made it abundantly clear what he thinks about them. You know, but I think that it's very interesting. I mean, it makes me think of I don't know if you've seen it, but The Endless.
I have not seen it. I've almost started it a bunch of times, but
well, you need to watch the resolution first.
Yeah, that's what you told me, which is why. But I have access to watch The Endless, and I don't have access to watch that one.
Well, it's a shame because the Arrow Blu-ray has both on there.
Well, maybe I'll buy it.
So it's sort of, there are similar things in that I also enjoy. And Midsummer, obviously. Wicker Man. There's lots of cult movies. Anyway.
I love Midsummer. So, it's a good one. Want to do a podcast on that?
It would probably get a lot of views.
Yeah, it would be one of our bigger hits somehow.
Gee, maybe you should just listen to me more often. Doesn't mean
that was my pick. All of the hits except for The Shining are my pick. You fucker. Scorched. It's because I operate on a normie level and we get the clicks.
Yeah. Why don't all your other picks do that then?
Shut up.
Wow.
When we do like Endgame, it gets drowned out by the real podcasters. That's why. Moving on.
This is a newspaper.
I'm about to slap you with a newspaper like a bug on the wall. What do you think of all the gorgeous colors in the movie?
They were very colorific. So, did you see the Roy G. Biv?
Huh?
Did you say or huh?
Huh? I said huh.
So, red, orange, yellow,
I know
green, blue, indigo, violet. The rainbow, if you will.
I know what it is.
The movie, in a very general sense, follows. It starts with bright red and ends with the nighttime violet with the
oh yeah, interesting.
The screens and everything kind of showing that.
Cool.
Because it's right at like pre-dusk, or not dusk, pre-dawn, just right before the sun comes up. Yeah, so I thought it was interesting.
My favorite part of the movie, because I just thought it was really clever, was when the movie actually deprives itself of color. When she's breaking out and she crawls out of like the duct or whatever and into the long elevator shaft, it goes from like colorful to just like Brazil kind of stark, like gross gray. And it's such a nice contrast.
That's the John Carpenter reference.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, that literally happens in Dark Star. Huh. It's the exact same shot and everything.
Damn. Okay, we'll have to watch that because that was my favorite part of the movie. So, what a hack! See, my other favorite part of the movie was the Mandy shot. So, what do you know?
Well, he's not copying himself.
Yeah, he is. You're
so,
copy your own work.
Yeah, I mean, I really like Dark Star. It's pre-Alien.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
I've just been waiting to watch Carpenter in general.
Yeah, well, I mean, Carpenter. Dan O'Bannon is the writer, so he's the guy that wrote Alien with Ridley Scott.
O'Bannon.
So Dan O'Bannon.
Danny Banny.
Danny Banny wrote it for Ridley Skidley. got out of it with H.R.R. Gigi.
No, that Ridley Skidley is the best. Yeah, I just thought it was all the different colors and what they kind of meant for each scene was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Why are we not talking about the fucking terrifying ass nightmare sequence?
Oh, I mean that's the reason I love shit like that, where it's like it goes into soundtrack and there's no fucking dialogue and it just is image after image.
That was actually horrifying. That was like
that's great.
Yeah, it was great. That was probably my favorite part of the movie. I just repressed it because it was scary.
Well, I love how it starts with everything so stark white and blown out, and you can like barely see the images of the faces.
Yeah.
And then he like dips down into that black liquid.
Yeah. It's gross. And when he throws it all up too.
Right.
I was like shuddering. It was disgusting.
So it's
again, it comes out later in the timeline of life, but I saw it first. It gave me under the skin kind of vibes too.
Yep. Very, very Jonathan Glazer.
Yeah. Which is another movie that was fucking disgusting and creeped me out.
I was reading a thing that was saying that what they took from this movie was that Panos was saying that during the time period that precedes this film in real life, that is when Hollywood was actually creative and allowed directors to do anything they wanted. So like Lynch and Kubrick and Cronenberg and all these guys that had like mind twisting, drug induced type imagery that could just put anything up there that they wanted and be as creative as possible. That after that point there was a stifling of it, and then like it kind of became like the slasher genre.
Okay.
And so like that's why the film switches like abruptly into that one thing. Sure. But then he's so easily dispatched that the girl just laughs at him.
Right.
Like that they were trying to say that the way they took it was like it was a diatribe on
the slasher genre kind of just comes and goes.
Kind of that, and kind of like Hollywood is drugged up and wants to stifle creativity rather than appreciating creativity.
Right.
And I personally got ending of 2001 vibes where it's like the baby coming to Earth. Is it a weapon? Is it the Uber being, the Ubermensch, the Superman? Is it a good thing or a bad thing that this new evolutionary thing is coming to Earth? And so it's like you could look at this and say the girl leaving the compound and just going into the neighborhood could be a good thing, but it could also be a scary thing because we know that she has like ridiculous powers and there were things keeping her powers in check, but now she's completely free from it. And the person that knows she escaped is dead.
Right.
And she's just
the first person that pisses her off.
Yeah. Will she go and like knock on the door and they not let her in and then she gets mad, or will she just break through the house because she doesn't know any better? We don't know. What did she spend the entire life that she had at the Institute? Did she actually get taken from her parents, or did her parents, were they the ones that like gave her up?
Well, I had a theory about that.
Go for it.
It's relating to the nightmare sequence. I don't know if I don't understand. I don't get the man in black goo. Is it meant to be Barry?
Yes, it is Barry.
It is supposed to be Barry.
Well, he's the one that's in the thing, and it's his face that's modeled.
Yeah, I understood that. Like I knew it was the same actor, but I didn't know what it was meant to be. Because then there's a woman that he finds or whatever. It's in 1966, I think. Which is roughly enough time. Because he kind of like almost rapes the woman, so I was almost figuring he like pulled her from the void and brought her into this world. Wherever he went and was like Black Goo Man, he like created Elena or whatever, and then pulled her into this world, and that's why she has powers. That was what I was feeling in that scene, but I don't really know.
Well, yeah, I mean, I would agree with you. To me, it reminds me kind of the mythology of like Clash of Titans.
Okay.
Where it's like there is a woman and then a godlike creature.
Sure.
Takes her to be the mother and it's sort of like whether, it's like, is he a mutant? Is he an alien? Like, why does he look so different? Why is his eyes like that? Sort of a thing, but it's sort of like Mandy has those Hellraiser type bad guys.
They're the Black Riders or whatever.
Yeah, but then suddenly they just seem human, but it's only after Red like transforms and takes the drugs that they seem human and can be beatable. Yeah. So it's sort of like, does he represent like where the cult is going? Does he represent just power? Because he almost has like a sacrificial dagger, so it almost seems like the Satanic Panic of the 80s as well.
Yeah,
because he's a very stark figure with like the really pale skin and then the really dark leathery costume. It's almost like giallo-esque.
Well, a dark leathery costume kind of is calling back to the Black Goo.
Right.
Very similar. And I mean, I did do the math. So 1983 minus 1966 is 17, and Elena's supposed to be 17 years. So,
or 16 if she had a year to be born.
Yeah, unless time works differently in the void or whatever.
Sure.
I was expecting that sequence to end with him like coming out of the goo holding a child, but it didn't.
Oh, it's not Death Stranding.
That's what I thought it was gonna be. He was gonna be covered in the black goo, but even though like the baby came out of the black goo, the baby would be fully clean. BB. Del Toro, not Del Toro. I think I preferred the movie when it was that to when it was like the slasher bit. It reminded me of Sunshine, where just kind of heel turns into something that kind of makes sense, kind of doesn't at the same time. That's actually an Alex Garland movie. Reminder of last week.
Yes, it is. Because you like Alex.
Well, what if that's a 1-2-3 punch? You kind of the heel turn in Sunshine inspires the heel turn in this, and the ending in this inspires the ending of Ex Machina.
Well, I mean, but that's not the first time that a movie...
Well, I know, but you know, in the context of how we did the 1-2 punch movie thing, it's kind of cool.
Yeah, I feel like it is era appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
I feel I like the fact that the Institute itself did obviously evil things, but the individuals other than Barry weren't necessarily shown to be evil.
Even though he murders 2 people.
Well, like I said, Barry is evil.
Oh.
I'm saying the Institute is like usually it's like
I was confused the other way around.
Yeah, usually it's like the building is an evil building and every single person that works for it is like for it, but it's like he kept the stuff secret from the lady that was his assistant, and then like we find out that the really tall beings with the helmets are actually like some sort of like brain dead mutant children.
Yeah, that was fucked. That was pretty cool. I liked the design of them too when they were in like the orange 2001 looking outfits.
And then there was the one that apparently like wanted to like bite her that was like seemingly dead in that one room, but came alive almost like a zombie.
The hell was that? That was weird too. I mean, I liked it, but it was weird. That was what I was talking about with my note down there.
Yeah, so it's interesting to me, like she's more dangerous because she looks human, and the others look completely inhuman.
Yeah, it's that like power and it looks innocent kind of thing,
right?
So, especially,
but then it's like
a 17-year-old girl too. It's not even just like it looks human. Like it's whoever finds her walking the streets is probably going to try to help her. And like you said earlier, what are the implications of that?
And then it kind of makes me think of The Fifth Element, where the supreme being is a hot model girl.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
and Bruce Willis bangs her. Not her, but like Mila Jovovich.
Big bada boom.
I know you know nothing about the world, but baby, I just can't help myself.
You are obviously looking at everything like a toddler.
I know you're mentally 5 years old, but baby, physically, you're at least 12. That was a bad joke, but whatever. It was a Luke Besson joke, but whatever. I'm not gonna laugh at that, I guess.
Did you? Yeah, I got it.
Mm-hmm.
Did you like when Barry picked up the phone? How it was like all this like garbled message stuff, and he was like
it was backwards. I looked it up afterwards. That's where the ROM thing came from.
At the did you stay past the credits?
Yeah.
So you saw that it was the little toy doing it?
Yeah.
I love how Mandy did that too, where it's like her. Yeah. So this thing's great.
It recontextualizes almost the entire film. So it's some like toy is what caused him to become his true self.
Well, it's an interesting thing of like losing your grip on reality. It's like people take drugs to expand their mind and to open themselves to new possibilities, but what they're actually doing is like stunting themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And like, it's that one quote where it's like, when everything is beautiful, then nothing is beautiful.
Right.
So it's like when everything can be significant, then significance kind of loses its meaning.
I totally agree with that.
It's a state of mind, a way of being.
Yeah. It's an Elmo and Christmas thing.
A different way to think.
If every day is Christmas, then Christmas isn't special anymore. It was Elmo. That was an Elmo movie.
Elmo, love you. I think if you were to if you were going to describe this movie in one word, I would say hypnotic.
Yeah. I would say grimy.
Grimy?
Yeah. The whole thing just
Okay.
feels like this movie I'm not supposed to be watching.
That's every movie I like watching.
That I stayed up too late kind of thing as a kid, and like it just happened to be on. I didn't know where the remote was. Now I'm like watching it. That's what I meant by grimy. I don't know if it was the right word, but I wrote down a note where it says cast and how it helps the atmosphere. That was something too. You talked about like Nick Cage kind of helping Mandy get bigger. This one, because it has unknown actors, almost feels like it's not a movie. I don't know.
Yeah, it feels like actually the people.
Yeah. It's like total disconnect because I haven't seen these people in anything, and it's been 10 years since it came out.
Isn't Barry's actor so good?
Yeah, he was creepy as hell.
The thing is, he's able to play those different roles so well. Like, he's able to play the psychologist, like, super well.
Mm-hmm.
And then he, like, plays the alien mutant weird guy doing whatever the fuck he's doing so well. And then even as the slasher, he plays him really well.
Reminds me of a certain somebody.
Who?
Call for help.
Hello.
My arm hurts.
Squeezed his arm off. Squeezed his hand off, whatever. Anyway.
This is much more comfortable.
Starting positions.
I am the FBI. Gordon, I'm coming back. Is the coffee on?
I like how much of this movie is not explained.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it doesn't, like, go... Like, she breaks into the lit triangle room and figures out what it was that was keeping her under control. Or they didn't at the end go, I'm weaning you off of this drug X.
Right.
And now you'll be able to get out because you're hiding the pills under your pillow and you're not taking them anymore. It's like,
right.
Fucking nope.
That'll be good for me if I ever make movies, because I don't know how to explain those things, so people will think I'm being deep. But it's really just I don't have any idea.
Except they'll go back to this podcast and hear you say that.
Oh, no. As I rip off Beyond the Black Rainbow. I almost said
I'll call you out on that. I'll have a podcast specifically bashing your movie.
No, I couldn't make anything like this. This is completely out of what my films would be. You know what I mean?
No.
You talked about it before. Anyway, never mind. This is very much a movie you would make. I think you would probably make Mandy too, but I would be more inclined to make a Mandy than this. I feel Mandy's a little more humanistic. That deals with like the sadness and all that kind of stuff. And loss and all that.
I don't think the world is ready for me to make a film.
Why? Why not?
Mm-hmm.
There's so many people making films right now that shouldn't be making films, so why shouldn't you?
Because I don't think the world is ready.
Why shouldn't you be one? When are they going to be ready? When you're 80?
No, I don't think they'll ever. They're never going to be ready.
Well, maybe they're not going to like it, but their kids are going to love it. Yep.
Exactly. That's what I said.
What else do we have to do here?
I mean, we kind of talked about the fact that there were some comparisons between this and like Alex Garland stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not like a one-to-one comparison.
No, but there's a lot of stuff, especially with Ex Machina. There's the whole interview idea at the beginning of this film, kind of like the Turing test throughout.
And the manipulation.
Yeah, the manipulation, the eventual escape.
Things not being as they appear, and people being in control that you think are just bystanders.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the shots with like the lighting in the ceiling, or like the mirrors, or the glass partitions.
Well, there's one hallway where it's white with white lights and glass and all that.
Right.
Kind of like the interiors of Nathan's house. Yeah, it's definitely a companion piece, like you said. It touches on the same kind of story beats and ideas, but in a different way, in a different genre. It's kind of cool to see some of the same ideas kind of from two different people in two completely different ways.
I should look up to see if Aboria means anything.
Yeah, do it.
but apparently there's now a game
Oh,
or a festival or something. Because when I searched for it on Google, this is what came up. It's like, it's a shame that didn't come out 10 years ago.
yeah.
And apparently
Well,
it's a Dragon Quest thing too.
Arborea, like an
Yeah.
arbor, like a tree.
Could be.
What do you think Panos is gonna do next? How long do you think it's gonna take?
Well, between this and Mandy, what was there, 8 years in between?
Yeah.
I mean, he obviously.
I think there will be less time in between Mandy and whatever he does next.
I don't even know if he's going to work on anything.
I think
I don't know if he has ideas or. I mean, I would almost like to see him do a straight out horror film.
Yeah. What does that mean though? Like define straight out horror, like ooh spooky ghosts and stuff, or
no? I mean,
because Mandy has a lot of horror elements to it, like
right, but it's sort of like it's more of like a psychological horror, like Man versus Grief or Man versus himself.
Man versus Wild, Man versus Food.
Exactly, where he had to drink his own piss. So like instead of that, like if Panos would do a movie where you follow the villain,
Okay.
so almost like a like a Halloween where it's like you like Michael Myers, the mute villain.
Right.
Just instead of like going to the family, like to me, I still think the protagonist is like the air quotes good guy. So in this one, it's the girl. In Mandy, it's basically Red, even though there are other elements to it. You kind of like follow the stories of that.
Well, I would agree. I would agree. Yeah, it's who the story's centered around. So
right.
even though we follow Barry for a bit, for most of the movie, it's centered around her, so she would be the protagonist. It's kind of like The Shining, where Danny's the protagonist, but we follow Jack for most of it.
Right. So I think something that way would be interesting, but I don't know if he even wants to do anything that's not based on how he feels about stuff.
Right. Yeah. Who knows?
I mean, anything he makes, I will
pretty
see.
much anything he makes, I'll watch, dude.
It's it's just like Ari Aster. If he comes out with, it doesn't matter what the description of the plot is, I want to see it.
Even if it's his crazy musical.
Oh, that's like S. Craig
the
Zoller.
thing is like whatever Ari does is still gonna be fucked up. He said his next movie is gonna be a comedy, and he calls Strange Thing About the Johnsons a comedy. So
right,
it's gonna be that level, anything, no matter what he does. So I'm excited. Isn't he doing a Western? That'd be interesting.
S. Craig, is that what you're saying?
No, Ari.
I never really heard more. See if he actually says.
He's definitely taking a break in between the two. He had these two primed and ready to go.
A Western noir dark comedy set in New Mexico.
Well, all right.
But who knows if anything will change, or.
I just learned that in Hereditary, when Annie gets the phone call, it's him. He's the guy on the phone asking how the gallery's process is going, or progress. Little cameo. I don't know. Just fun fact. Why wasn't Panos in either of his movies? Just like standing in the background.
What he looks like?
Yeah, he fits in perfectly.
It's like a fucking lumberjack.
He would fit in really perfectly to Mandy.
I'm pretty sure he doesn't feel the need to put himself in his films because he's putting himself in his films.
Yeah, whatever. Well, Lynch puts himself in his films.
I know.
So, what do you say about that? Huh?
Not in all his films, though.
All of them, every single one.
Well, that's not true. That's demonstrably not true. He mostly put himself in Twin Peaks.
Yeah, well, your name is Twin Peaks.
I mean, he was in Dune.
He was in Dune, really quickly.
But is he in any of his other movies?
No, shut up. He might be in like Inland Empire as like some figure in the back. Is there anything else you want to talk about for Beyond the Black Rainbow?
I mean, that's pretty much like it's one of those things. So much of the stuff is visual.
Yeah, it's really helpful to kind of watch it, even though it is fucked. It's one that's kind of hard for just to recommend to the general audience, but
well,
there's no audience in these podcasts anyway. So
right, you would expect someone to watch it before they listen to a podcast.
You'd hope so, but we'll get somebody in the comments saying like, "I can't believe you spoiled the entire
whatever." I mean, and it's one of those too where it's like, what happens in the movie is not necessarily a one-to-one correlation. Like some of it is like, what does it mean to you, or what do you think it means?
Yeah, and I mean, especially in the explanation of like the nightmare bit, somebody could go like, okay, that makes me more interested in the movie now. But who knows? Well, what's the schedule say for next week?
Well, it's your fucking pick, Dick.
We'll figure it out. So whether we do best of the year next week or we do another movie, who cares? We'll figure something out.
Wow. Yeah, who cares?
It was a who cares in like a laid back, like Cliff Booth kind of way, you know?
Yeah, who cares?
Yeah, exactly. Like whatever.
Like,
Man,
by the way,
we'll get to it when we get to it.
And he's not any good at fighting.
I killed my wife.
My wife. Well, where can they find us if they want to follow us and shit like that? God damn.
Oh my god, I was getting to it. You fucking hoser.
You filthy pervert.
Well, if you like the show,
what are you,
please
Ronald
be sure
Reagan?
to subscribe and leave us a like and a comment. Let us know how we're doing. Say hi. Literally, if you're at this part in the video, just say hi, just for fun. Just so
we did have a comment, by the way.
When what?
On YouTube, they told us we could buy more views.
Really?
Yeah.
What video is that? I always said whenever
Blues Brothers.
Whenever we get a comment, we'll read the comment on air, even if it's a fucking bot. Here we go. We'll go to it. Blues Brothers, you say?
I did.
This is the girl. Gabriel, 6 days ago, says, fantastic. Keep making videos. You should go and look at Smizzes. It'll help you get your videos higher in the search results. I'm going to reply and say, fuck you, Gabriel. You're definitely not a fan. Otherwise, we would have more views. Bitch. Anyway, if you do leave a comment, much like I just did right now, I will leave it on air, and much like I did right now, I will probably say fuck you. Other than that, you can follow us on Twitter. The show
smell you later.
_podcast. Me at Alex's Reviews.
Garrett Fat Alex's Reviews.
I said at you, you dummy. And you can follow us both on Letterboxd. Links to that are in the description below. You can stalk our movie watching habits and watch me watch a bunch of short films recently for whatever reason.
You're just trying to pad those numbers, man.
That's exactly what it is. Get those numbers up, buddy. Can I hit 100 before the end of February?
No.
Yep. It's going to happen.
Okay.
That's about it. We'll talk to y'all on the flippity flop.
Me.